Somewhere along a gravel pullout above Fjord, a retired school teacher from Germany is making coffee in a van she has lived in for 3 years. Below her, a cruise ship the size of a small town glides between mountain walls 1,000 meters high, carrying passengers who paid thousands for 1 week of her everyday view. But living in a van in Norway is not the easy dream the drone shots suggest. The winters are brutal, the prices are shocking, and the rules are stricter than you might think. So why do so many people keep choosing this life? To understand it, you have to start with the land itself. Norway is shaped like almost nowhere else on Earth. The coastline, if you stretched out every fjord and inlet, would wrap around the planet more than twice. Glaciers spent 2.5 million years carving this country, gouging out more than 1,000 fjords. And what they left behind is a landscape where the sea reaches deep into the mountains like fingers. Fjord, the longest of them all, runs more than 200 kilometers inland and plunges over 1,300 meters deep. That is deeper than most of the North Sea. For most of history, this geography was a curse. Villages were cut off for months. Farmers scratched out livings on slopes so steep that children were sometimes roped to posts so they would not tumble into the water. But modern Norway spent its oil wealth on something remarkable: roads. Tunnels blasted through solid granite, including the Lærdal Tunnel, the longest road tunnel in the world, at 24.5 kilometers. Bridges that hop between islands, ferries that run like clockwork across the fjords. The result is a country where a simple camper van can reach places that feel like the end of the world, on smooth asphalt, with a supermarket rarely more than an hour away. The E6 highway runs the full length of the country, from the southern border all the way past the Arctic Circle to the far north. You can drive it for a week and never run out of mountains. There is one more gift hidden in this geography, and it surprises almost everyone. The Gulf Stream, the same warm current that bathes Bermuda and the Caribbean, ends its long journey across the Atlantic right here, hugging the Norwegian coast. It keeps harbors ice-free even far above the Arctic Circle, in towns sitting at the same latitude as frozen Siberia. Without that current, driving a camper van this far north would be impossible. With it, the fjord coast stays mild enough that the road season stretches deep into autumn. Before we drive any farther, we would love to know where in the world you are watching this from, and what time it is there right now. Leave it in the comments below. Now settle in, because the next part of this story is the real reason van travelers cross entire continents to reach Norway. Beautiful roads and a warm current exist in other countries too. What makes Norway different is a law. It is called Allemannsretten, the right to roam, and it was written into the Outdoor Recreation Act back in 1957, though the tradition behind it is centuries older. The idea is simple and, to visitors from most countries, almost unbelievable. In Norway, nature belongs to everyone. You are allowed to walk, ski, and camp on uncultivated land, regardless of who owns it, as long as you behave respectfully. Pitch a tent, or in practice, park a van in many wild places, at least 150 meters from the nearest inhabited house. Stay no more than 2 nights in the same lowland spot. Leave no trace, and you are entirely within your rights. Think about what that means for someone living on wheels. In much of Europe, a van traveler spends half the day worrying about where sleeping is legal. Campsite fees pile up, signs forbid overnight parking, and a knock on the window at midnight is a constant possibility. In Norway, A couple in a camper can pull off a mountain road beside a glacial lake, cook dinner as the light turns gold, and sleep with a clear conscience. The law is on their side. That single legal foundation is why Norway has become something like a promised land for van travelers. And it attracts a particular kind of person. Spend a summer driving the fjord roads and you start to recognize them. There are the retired couples, often German, Dutch, or British, in well-kept motorhomes, who sold or rented out the house and decided that their 60s and 70s would be spent seeing the places they had postponed for 40 years. There are Norwegian families in older vans, doing what Norwegians have always done, which is disappear into nature at every opportunity. There is even a word for it, free Luftliv, the free air life, an idea Norwegians treat less like a hobby and more like a duty. And children here grow up on the saying that there is no bad weather, only bad clothing. There are seasonal workers who fish in the north or guide tourists in summer and live in their vehicles to save money in one of the world's most expensive countries. And increasingly, there are remote workers in their 40s and 50s answering emails from a laptop with the Seven Sisters waterfall thundering across the fjord behind them. What unites them is not age or nationality, it is a decision about time. Every one of them, in some form, decided that ordinary days in extraordinary places were worth more than extraordinary comfort in ordinary places. But deciding is the easy part. Actually living in a van in Norway requires the van to be a serious machine. Look inside one of these vehicles and you will find something closer to a small ship than a car. The walls are packed with insulation, often sheep's wool or rigid foam, because a bare metal van in a Norwegian autumn turns into a refrigerator by morning. Under the floor or beneath a bench sits a diesel heater, a small unit that sips fuel from the vehicle's own tank and pushes dry, warm air through vents. Van dwellers speak about these heaters the way sailors speak about their engines. When it works, life is good. When it fails on a cold night in the mountains, everything stops until it is fixed. On the roof, solar panels charge a bank of batteries that run the lights, the fridge, and the water pump. Water tanks hold anywhere from 50 to several hundred liters. There is usually a 2-burner gas stove, a bed that converts from a seating area or sits fixed above a garage space for bicycles and fishing rods, and storage designed with the obsessive precision of people who own very little and use all of it. None of this is glamorous. It is closer to the logic of a fishing boat or a mountain cabin. Everything has a purpose, everything has a place, and comfort comes from systems that work, not from space. So what does an ordinary day actually look like? It starts slowly, and that is the point. Morning by a fjord in Norway is a quiet business. Mist hangs on the water. Maybe a fishing boat putters past on its way out. Coffee gets made on the gas stove, and breakfast happens with a view that would cost 500 euros a night if a hotel stood on the same spot. No hotel stands there. That is why the van is there. Then come the small chores that structure this life. Water is the daily question. Van travelers fill their tanks at gas stations, at marinas, at official service points that Norwegian municipalities have increasingly built for exactly this purpose. Groceries come from supermarket chains found in even small fjord towns, and the travelers learn quickly which ones are cheapest, because food prices in Norway will make a Dutch or German pensioner physically wince. Showers happen at campsites every few days, at public swimming pools, or, for the brave, in the fjord itself, where the water is glacial in the most literal sense. None of these chores are difficult, but none of them forgive neglect. Run the water tank dry on a Sunday evening in a small fjord village, with every service point closed, and you will find out exactly how quiet Norway can be. And then there is driving, though not much of it. Experienced van travelers in Norway move slowly, often less than 100 kilometers a day. The roads demand it, winding along cliff edges and diving through tunnels. But the ferries enforce it too. Crossing a fjord means rolling onto a ferry deck, cutting the engine, and standing at the rail for 20 minutes while mountains slide past. It is impossible to hurry in this country. Most people stop trying within a week, and many will tell you that this, not the scenery, was the thing that actually changed them. Now, all of this raises the obvious question, and it is the one everyone asks first. What does it cost? Norway is famously one of the most expensive countries on Earth. A simple hotel room can run 200 euros. A restaurant dinner for two, easily 150. A single beer in an Oslo bar costs what a six-pack costs in Spain. For a normal tourist, Norway is a financial endurance event. The van flips that equation almost completely. Accommodation, the biggest cost of any trip, drops to nearly zero, thanks to the right to roam. Meals cooked on a gas stove from supermarket ingredients cost a fraction of restaurant prices. What remains are three real expenses. Fuel, which is painful, with diesel often among the priciest in Europe. Road tolls, which are collected automatically by camera and arrive later as bills that surprise every first-timer. And the ferries, which charge by vehicle length. Another reason the compact van often beats the huge motorhome here. Add it up, and something strange happens. Careful van travelers report living well in Norway, one of the world's costliest countries, on less money than they spent on ordinary life back home. A couple with a paid-off van and a pension can travel the fjords for months on a budget that would barely cover rent and utilities in a German city. The most expensive country in Europe becomes, for these people, oddly affordable. The van is not just a vehicle, it is an economic loophole with a bed in it. If you are enjoying this look at life on Norway's roads, take a second and subscribe. This channel travels to places like this every week, and there is a lot more to see. Because once the van works, and the budget works, the real reward begins. The routes. There are roads in Norway that people cross continents to drive. The Norwegian Public Roads Administration keeps a list of 18 official national scenic routes, roads selected purely for what you can see from the asphalt, and long-term van travelers treat that list like a menu. The Atlantic Ocean Road on the western coast leaps from islet to islet on a series of bridges, the most famous of which twists upward in a curve so dramatic that from certain angles it looks like it ends in midair. In a storm, waves break clean over the roadway, and Norwegians drive it anyway. Further south, Trollstigen, the Troll's Ladder, climbs a sheer mountain wall through 11 hairpin bends, with a waterfall crashing down the middle of the route. Vans grind up it in low gear, mirrors folded on the narrow sections, and at the top, travelers stand at the viewpoint looking down at the road they just survived, photographing it like a trophy. Then there is Geiranger Fjord, a place so dramatic that UNESCO protects it. Emerald water, 1,000-meter cliffs, abandoned farms clinging to ledges where no farm has any business existing. Van travelers park high on the old mountain roads above it and watch the cruise ships come and go far below, tiny and temporary. And in the north wait the Lofoten Islands, jagged peaks rising straight from Arctic seas, with red fishermen's cabins in villages like Reina and Hamnøy. and wooden racks where cod has been dried in the sea wind for 1,000 years. Beyond Lofoten lies the quieter island of Senja, which many long-term travelers now prefer, precisely because fewer people have heard of it. But the farther north the road goes, the closer it runs to the season that ends most van journeys, which makes the final stop fitting. At the very top of Europe waits Nordkapp, the North Cape, a cliff at 71 degrees north, where the road simply runs out and there is nothing beyond the railing but the Barents Sea and, eventually, the polar ice. In June and July, vans line up at that cliff at midnight to watch a sun that never sets. The midnight sun turns the entire far north into one long golden evening that lasts for weeks, and travelers describe losing track of time entirely, hiking at 11 at night, eating dinner at 2 in the morning, sleeping when they feel like it. But the midnight sun has a twin. In Norway, every gift from the geography eventually arrives with a bill attached, and this is where the romantic version of van life ends and the serious version begins, because the largest bill of all comes due in one season: winter. From late November, the far north enters the polar night. The sun does not rise at all for weeks. Temperatures drop to -15, -25, sometimes lower in the inland valleys. Roads glaze over with ice, and Norwegian law requires proper winter tires, with many drivers running studded ones. Most van travelers flee south, to Spain or Portugal like migrating birds. A hardy minority stays, and their life becomes a discipline. In winter, the diesel heater runs around the clock, and fuel planning becomes as important as food. Water systems must be kept from freezing or drained entirely. Doors are opened quickly and closed faster. Snow gets shoveled from around the wheels each morning, and every experienced winter van dweller carries traction boards, a shovel, and enough food to sit out a storm for days. So why would anyone endure it? Because winter in northern Norway offers something summer cannot. On clear nights, the aurora borealis pours across the sky in curtains of green and violet, and the people sleeping in vans on quiet fjord roads have front row seats, every single night, for free. Ask the winter holdouts and they will tell you the same thing. You have not really seen the northern lights until you have watched them alone, in silence, from the middle of nowhere, with the heater humming behind you and no other human light in sight. Still, honesty requires admitting what the drone footage never shows. This life has real costs beyond money. Loneliness is the one long-term travelers mention most, especially in the dark months, and especially for those traveling alone. Small breakdowns become large problems when the nearest mechanic is 2 ferries away, and the freedom itself is slowly being fenced in. Lofoten, loved almost to death by visitors, has tightened its rules year by year, and local municipalities have banned overnight parking in many popular spots after summers when the islands were overwhelmed with campers and, frankly, with the mess some of them left behind. Norwegians remain remarkably welcoming, but their patience is not infinite, and every traveler who dumps waste in a hedge spends a little more of it. The people who last in this life understand that the right to roam is really a trust between strangers. It survives only as long as the people using it leave every parking spot, every shoreline, every mountain pullout exactly as they found it, or cleaner. The old-timers police this among themselves because they know exactly what is at stake. Which brings us back to that school teacher above Geirangerfjord and the question we started with: why do they do it? Talk to enough of them and the answers rhyme, and the strange part is how rarely the fjords come up. The fjords are the backdrop. What they actually describe is time, mornings with nowhere to be. The discovery, usually somewhere in the first month, that a person needs far less than a lifetime of habit had convinced them they needed. The particular quality of silence beside deep water. One Dutch traveler in his late 60s put it about as plainly as it can be put. He said he had spent 40 years being on time for things, and now he wanted to spend whatever was left being on time for nothing. Down on the fjord, the cruise ship sounds its horn and begins the long turn back toward the open sea. Its passengers have 3 hours in Geiranger, then dinner at a fixed sitting, then the next port on the schedule. Up on the mountain road, the woman from Germany rinses her coffee cup, looks at the weather moving in from the west, and decides she might stay another night. Or she might not. That, in the end, is the whole answer. Not the mountains, and not even the fjords. Just the fact that nobody, anywhere, is waiting for her decision. Thank you for riding along on Norway's roads with us. If you would like to see how people live through an entire winter above the Arctic Circle, there is a video on your screen right now that follows exactly that. Click it, and we will keep exploring places like this together.